as of January this year, we're doing 23.5%, and then all the way down to August, we're doing 11.5%, and that's eight straight months of decline that we've seen, and it's sparked one of the big burning questions, that can Ghana really return to a single-digit inflation by end of year? And that's a very important question we're trying to ask this morning. And to help us unpack this, I'm joined by Mr. Valentin Mensah. He is an economist, and he's joining me to give me some information on exactly, his insights with us on the issue at hand. Doc, good morning. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning to your listeners.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So first of all, I'm an accountant. Anyway,
okay.
Accountants are mostly economists, but by my core profession is a chartered accountant.
Chartered accountant. Okay. All right. That is fine. Okay, Doc. So let's get into the conversation this morning. I know we've had a conversation here before, and you brought in a lot of insights, and so we can still speak on this particular matter. Now let's try to understand exactly what is happening really, and what has been the main things behind the progress we've seen, being at 23.5% in January and now 11.5% in August. From where you sit, or from your perspective, what are the main factors behind the recent decline in inflation?
Okay, thank you very much for this important question. Okay, inflation has been Ghana's cancer or chronic disease since the colonial times. And that was the main reason that the 1948 riots, we had a lot of people killed, and the colonial government gave us the independence. It was how the independence started. So inflation in Ghana has always existed because of the structure of our economy.
Yeah.
Because we produce cocoa and gold and export, and we import manufactured goods and even food. And so our economy is fragile and exposed to global factors. So that is the most important factor,
right? But
in our inflation.
So more specifically, for the decline that we've been seeing, from where you sit, what do you think are the factors? How much of the progress we are seeing is attributed to monetary policy, and how much is attributed to some external conditions?
Okay, thank you very much. I think we will give about 80% to external conditions, and the remaining 20% to fiscal policies. When by fiscal policies I mean the government containing the expenditure and reducing the deficits, and also the reduction in interest rates. Initially, the interest rate was increased, and now that we've seen the trend in the decline, it's been reduced a bit. So if the money supply is managed, then that would also lead to the decline of inflation. So the money supply relates mainly to the government's expenditure and deficit. So if the government spends more and there's a lot of deficit, then the government needs to borrow. And borrowing it's linked to demand and supply. As a people, we don't save enough. So whatever we save, then the banks are lending. If the government is also borrowing from that source, then there will be we wouldn't have enough to borrow or lend. And that is why when the government spends too much, there's pressure on the inflation. So we have mainly three factors. It's the global, mainly oil. And then we have the exchange rate. And then we also have the government fiscal policies.
Right,
And
Doc.
that, yes, sorry. And the monetary will come after.
I would appreciate if you could take them one after the other. You talk about 80% being external. What elements in there are actually inuring to the progress we're seeing?
Okay, so thank you. So, for example, the price of crude oil. Okay, so crude oil, most of our people use the transport, public transport, and mostly the trotro drivers, and you always see the pressure from GPRTU to increase the fares, and the government always trying to get them to maintain, because that affects in that basket of goods for inflation. That is significant there. The same oil is used to transport goods or food. So that also leads to increase in the price of food and other commodities. And we have a lot of drivers or vehicle owners using fuel. And that is also imported in hard currency, dollars. So that when the exchange rate, the CD depreciates, then that becomes too expensive. The imports become too expensive. The prices increase and it leads to inflation. So the global prices and the supply chain, as well as exchange rates, play a major role on the level of inflation. Then the fiscal, when the government manages the expenditure or increases revenue, when the fiscal deficit is managed, there will be we wouldn't have a lot of pressure on the system. And that is what is also happening. Has not engaged in the expenditure we saw, the level of expenditure we saw before, and where we had projects all over. As you, I'm sure you are aware of the fact that some of the contractors put the projects on hold because they were not being paid. So, and it's even though the effect was not pleasant, but for a government, you need to manage your expenditure, and that's where we always say you cut your coat according to your cloth. If you spend too much, then your economy will overheat, and you have problems like that. Okay, so we are lucky that the global conditions have favored us since January, and that led to the decline in the exchange rate as well. We were saying that we also have oil, the price of gold and cocoa, and then that impacted on the exchange rate, because with your reserves, your exchange rate would also benefit. So the decline in exchange rate and then the prices of commodities, as well as the fiscal policies, accounted for the decline. Unfortunately, there was a decline in the value of the CD from the beginning of August to now. We've seen about 2 cities, and that is not that doesn't augur well. But I hope that it's well managed and we maintain the value of the cedi.
But you're talking about fiscal policies. I'm wondering what fiscal policies that have been put in place that is actually leading to this.
Okay, so by fiscal policy, even if the government doesn't spend, it's a fiscal policy. And if the government spends, it's also a fiscal policy. So the government, looking at what the government generates in revenue, and then cutting its expenditure, it's a fiscal policy.
Right.
So
Okay.
that is what the government has done,
I see.
and that accounts for some of the decline in
We are seeing. Right. But do you think this disinflation trend is structural or some temporary relief?
Excellent question. So since independence, we've had this. As I told you, our economy is fragile. We've had a lot of short periods of disinflation, and most of the time we've had hyperinflation in this country. And so it's the structure. As I said, we are highly exposed to external factors because we don't consume what we produce. So in that case, the economy is exposed. So until we produce most of what we consume, and our agriculture is also much improved, and we manufacture, we have agro-processing in place, then we will be able to shift or change the structure. At the moment, we will still be externally dependent for a while. And we would just hope that the global factors are favorable.
And for those ones, you can only hope.
Yes, you can only hope because if you are that exposed, there's not much you can do. And even if you implement the structural adjustment, it may take some time. But like I said, if the factors are favorable, we can achieve the single digits by the end of the year. But as to maintaining or sustaining that level is the problem. The fundamentals have to be right. So your structure should be a structure that you can manage, not what is dependent on the external factors.
So let's talk about the structures you're talking about. So you believe that by the end of the year we can reach our single digits. What structures are we talking about?
Okay, like I said at the beginning, we are overexposed because most of the things that we consume in this country are dependent on global factors, so are imported. Okay, so you consume a lot of imported goods, and most of what you even produce here, you import the materials. So there's always the need for dollars, and I'm sure that you heard about the Bank of Ghana's governor explaining that this situation, the cedi depreciation is temporary and it's because of the high demand for dollars by the business people for imports, and that it will revert. We've heard this before. We always, when there's a depreciation, most of the officials will explain that it's because of the high demand of dollars. Why do we always have the high demand of dollars in the country? Most countries do not have that. So that is where the monetary policy comes in. How do we allow our citizens to price in dollars to import anything from anything and everything?
Right.
So we have to shift our minds to producing what we consume, okay, and pricing things in cities. Forget about our dollars. But before we can do that, you have to convince the citizens. The citizens have to be convinced and have confidence in our economy in the city. So that takes a lot of government effort.
Right.
Yeah, and so long-term planning and implementation of policy can lead to that.
Okay. So what risk could actually derail our progress? What kinds of risks would derail our progress?
Okay. So we in 2020, before 2020, the inflation was on that declining trend, and we had COVID. So COVID came and everything fell apart. And just when we were recovering, we have the Russian-Ukraine war. And then recently, I'm sure you heard when the president talked about the Israel-Iran.
Yeah.
So our prayers were heard that it didn't go on for a long time.
Yeah.
So those things, and there are so many other factors that any decision that U.S. takes or any other significant country. By significant, I mean a country that has a lot of influence on the global economy. Any decision or any policy they take that has adverse effects on global prices would affect our economy and inflation.
I see. But so if we are able to achieve this single digit inflation that we are talking about this morning, will ordinary households actually feel the difference, or will it just be the numbers? And I'm asking this because from January, we've been hearing of reduced prices. I think the only significant price that we can talk about that has reduced is the transportation fares. Yeah, even that there are certain like ride-hailing hubs applications or companies that are saying that they are not, or drivers really, ride-hailing app drivers that are saying that they won't reduce their prices and all of that. Do you think that we will just, it will still be like we are seeing now, where there are people that have still not reduced their price, and their excuses are that they bought some of their products before the inflation dropped and all of these things, those excuses that they give, and so it's more stable than dropping properly? Do you think that our ordinary households will actually feel the difference we're talking about?
Thank you very much. Okay, for the question. So inflation is one of the most important indicators that is felt by everyone in the country, the household. It begins with the household and ends with the government. So inflation cannot be ignored. And as I said, even before independence, it was because of inflation that there was that derail. Because as soon as there's inflation, everyone will feel it and complain. So people saying that they are not feeling the reduction, that can also be attributed to the fact that as a people, we engage in profiteering. And profiteering, I'm sure you heard about the government complaining that the traders are not reducing their prices.
Yeah.
Because when the cedi depreciated, there was significant increase in prices. But then when it fell from about 17 to 10, we didn't see that. And that could be because of the profiteering we have in this country. And then also, most importantly, in economics, everything depends on demand and supply. So if we don't have a lot of demand and we have many people chasing the same goods, the profiteers can manage the profiteering.
Yeah.
But then if the supply increases, they will be forced to reduce the prices. So this excuse that they are giving that they imported the goods at high prices. If we have a lot more goods coming in, nobody will tell them to reduce their prices because the invisible hand and human beings being rational will go for the lower prices, and then they will reduce their prices in the end. So it's all demand and supply. And as I said, if we're producing a lot in this country, that pressure wouldn't exist.
So you believe that households will realistically feel the relief in the cost of living?
Yes, if it sustains, the traders cannot maintain their prices at that level for a long time.
But usually what I was saying, usually what we see is that they don't reduce it, they keep it there, and then it stays there till forever. But immediately there's an increase. I mean, there's inflation trends a bit upward. Then you see that they begin to increase their things.
Okay, so that is how also when your economy, if there are no, I would say in certain countries, I'm not saying we should go for price control. We've had that in this country before. The military were controlling prices.
Yeah.
But then it's not always, the price control it's not always formal. It can be informal, and also the government doesn't have to do it directly. As you rightly mentioned, why does the government interact with the GPR2 and maintain and try to get them from increasing their prices anyway or anyhow? Because there's a cooperative, or we have an union, and whereas we should have encouraged that, a lot of cooperative in production and trading, so that the government could be dealing with them. So you have a lot of traders setting up anyhow and selling at any price. If you go, you are on the street. You have traders selling the same thing, but significantly different prices. Depending on, I'll give you an experience. On Sunday, I had a problem and I needed to fix it. I needed a bag of cement. And knowing that the bag of cement is about under 90 cedis, I worked with the artisan. I drove the artisan to, we were looking for a shop that will be open on Sunday. And that is also another problem of Ghanaians. On Sunday, few people open their shops.
Yeah.
Now, the current trend in the most countries is not like that. You can go to church quickly and come back and
And still
and
do
open.
business. Mm.
We shouldn't have all closing. So we went round, and as I said, the profiteering, the one that was open was charging 100 cities for the bag of cement that cost less than 90 cities. So I told him, how can you do that?
Yeah.
Even I know in Kumasi it's less than 90 cities. So why are you charging 100 cities? So I gave him the money because I didn't have any choice. But he looked at me and then gave me 10 cities back. So you see his conscience
Yeah.
after that conversation. So we are, as the people, we need to love our country and love our neighbors. So if you want to take any available opportunity to take advantage of your customer, then that we cannot help ourselves.
Mm. But on the matter
So,
of, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
so as I said, we need to have cooperatives like the GPRQ.
Mm.
So most of the traders have to be motivated to join such unions.
Mm.
So for example, cement traders, we know that this is their pride,
Yeah.
and they shouldn't charge more beyond a certain price. And if most of the consumers know, because like I said, informal means what I did,
Mm.
because I knew the price was below 90. So if you are charging me 100 cities, I have to tell you that what you're doing is not right.
Mm. Right.
And that by informal, it works so much better than doing it formally. So when it comes to, we have what we call formal institutions and informal institutions. In most of the developed countries, the informal institutions work more than the formal. So you don't need the police officer everywhere. The people themselves are policing each other. So if you live, for example, in the UK, most of the things we do in our neighborhoods, the neighbors will stop you from doing. So in the UK, for example, you wouldn't have churches making so much noise.
Mm.
The neighbor will walk to your house and tell you that you are making so much noise. If you don't stop, he or she will call the police
The
officer.
police. Right.
So that is what I mean by informal institution.
Mm.
We haven't developed that so much of that in our country. We always depend on the government, and that is why we are still suffering.
Suffering. Right. Okay. Well, so exactly, we have just about 60 minutes to the top of the hour. This is Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM. If you just tuned in this morning on a roundtable discussion, we are asking a big question that can Ghana return to single-digit inflation by year end? And my guest this morning is Dr. Valentin Mensah. He is an accountant, and he's joined me to have this all-important conversation. You can send us a WhatsApp if you... Sorry. You can send us a WhatsApp. I'd love to hear from you. The number to text is 0544321019, 0544321019, and then I will read your messages for you. You can as well send me a WhatsApp. Call me on 030-3956-641, 030-3956-641, and then I give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with us this morning. We're streaming live on Facebook at ZFMGH and also on YouTube at Z Multimedia. Please drop a comment under our live stream and then I'll read that for you. Okay, Doc, let me come back to you now. Now, you talk about price control, that the government can do it indirectly, and so maybe through this union like the GPRTU and all of that. What will be the incentives that will actually make people come and join? Because if I am selling my product and I can sell it at the price I want without anybody telling me what to do, what would make me want to go and join GPRTU or any organization that any organization that is organized, right? Any organization that is looking forward to bringing all of us under, and will be dictating certain prices for us.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And also, the government has an important responsibility to protect me from harming you. That is the most important responsibility of a government. Protecting citizens. So that aspect cannot be a laissez-faire. You cannot just leave it to the market. If you say you don't want to do any regulation at all, this is the situation you will have. So what I meant by the cooperative activity is the fact that, for example, in most sectors, or like I said, the GPR to you cannot operate without joining that union. We need to identify a lot of that and ensure they are working. So that one will be an indirect regulation and also part of the informal institution I'm talking about. If you cannot just buy your minivan or whatever and start operating your truck.
Yeah.
So we need to identify most of the areas that can be regulated indirectly like that. So once you have that, you can have influence on the prices when you engage with the leaders of those cooperatives.
Right. Okay. Okay. Let's move on. Because of our time, we can move on to back to our conversation proper. Now, we already spoke about the fact that we're going to see households are going to see some relief in their cost of living if we're able to get to the single-digit inflation by the end of the year. Now, what would single-digit inflation mean for consumer confidence and also spending?
Thank you very much for this question as well. Yes, so when we have a single-digit inflation, that means that the prices of goods will not be increasing as we are experiencing now, and so the consumers and the businesses can plan with certainty. Okay, if you are engaged in certain transactions and you are not sure how the price will be tomorrow, sometimes you'll be reluctant to spend, not knowing whether the price will be reduced tomorrow or increased tomorrow. So once we are sure, and with that single-digit inflation, most consumers would be ready to spend. And also with that, it will also affect the exchange rate. And the importers can also bring in a lot of goods, and that would influence the prices, because if we have a lot of supply, traders cannot continue charging so much. So all those would boost the consumer confidence.
Okay. And how about this spending?
Yes, they say the same. If you are confident, and if the amount of money that you have can buy more, then you can spend more as well.
Okay.
So with that, like I said, even the traders can import more. The consumers would also buy more.
that we don't slip back into high inflation. I mean, we've seen that in the past few years. I think right from 2021 downwards.
Okay, thank you. That's the most important. That's the most important factor as well. So even though I've said it's 20%, but then it's like a cycle. It's a cycle because that affects your inflation and exchange rate. And exchange rate and inflation, they work together. If you, especially in Ghana, they are directly correlated. If your inflation goes up, your exchange rate would be affected. If your exchange rate also, your CD devalues, it will also have impact on inflation. So if the government policies are causing the downfall of inflation, then it will also lead to the reduction in exchange rates and then the reduction in the price of imports. And that cycle will continue. So it's I would say, virtuous cycle for the government to manage the expenditure or the fiscal, to have a very good fiscal policy. So what the government has done initially is commendable.
Okay.
Just assessing your expenditure level, controlling it, and finding an appropriate level. If there's no pressure to discontinue that policy, then we would will be in for a very good trend. So, for example, in this country, every 4 years, when there's a lot of pressure for the government to spend before elections, they lose control.
Yeah.
Government loses control, and we have inflation immediately before and after election, because the voters would have to be pleased.
Yeah.
So the government engaged in a lot of activities to ensure that the voters will vote in their favor. And that has always been a cycle here.
Yeah. But permit me to take you back. We'll come back to policy in a few minutes. Permit me to take you back. Now, ECG is actually proposing some 225% increase in their tariffs. And that is something I want to know whether that is something that could affect the inflation trend we are seeing in any way.
Oh, thank you for that question. That would also affect it significantly, because everybody consumes power. And if that increases that much, I don't know whether the PURC has already approved. Yesterday, I was very busy trying to do a presentation, so I didn't monitor whether that. I heard, but I didn't monitor. I haven't read the detail yet. Whether PURC
not yet
approved it.
Not yet.
If PURC approves that, then we are in for trouble.
Right.
Because if we get that for water as well, I mean, that is what everybody consumes in Ghana. Factories, the households, and even the government offices. So if that happens, then it will be a serious thing. But then at the same time, if ECG cannot continue the way they are running by subsidizing the consumers. By subsidizing the consumers, I mean that they are not able to cover their expenses. So you need to have an efficient ECG. But at the moment, when everything is left to politics, we don't find competent people to run state-owned enterprises. You cannot have efficiency in those industries. So it's a shame that we always want to have a government services, government monopoly in those areas. But if we leave that to political appointments and others, we will have ourselves to blame, and we cannot blame anyone for this. It's our own making.
All right, Doc. So let's be trying to wrap up now. But in terms of policy, before we go, do you think Ghana should rely more on structural reforms than short-term monetary tightening? Because I've seen people argue that the Bank of Ghana will just quickly go and do some monetary tightening and all of that, but that is not something that we should do. Where do you stand in that particular argument?
Thank you very much. Yeah, that is true. You cannot continue using these monetary policies, tweaking your interest rates. Like the former vice president said, your fundamentals will always expose you. So the structure has to be right. We've been talking about the structure. If for so many years we cannot change our structure to make sure that we control our economy, and our economy is externally controlled, we will continue to have our fragile economy. So in the long term, there should be policies to ensure structural change.
All right.
But then you can't say that you forget about the short term. So while you're looking at the short term, you should have a long-term policy.
All right. Okay, Doc. Thank you very much for your time. I think we have to go now. Do you have anything to say? If there's anything I didn't touch on that you may want to touch on before we go, you can do so.
No, thank you very much. And I think you have a very good program.
Thank you.
And you have not given me the dial so that I can sometimes listen to your program.
Oh, we'll do that, Doc.
Yes. Okay.
All right,
yes.
we'll do that.
All right.
Thank you so much.
So I think as a people we need to be very serious. And as I told you, in 1948, we were holding the colonial officials to account. That same standard, we've lost it. So when a foreigner is running your country, you hold the foreigner to a very high standard. When your party man or your countryman is running your country, that standard is lost or is lowered. So until we maintain the standard of accountability, we won't get anywhere. So for so many years, we haven't improved. And when I read the 24-hour document, I nearly cried that there's a reference to Ghana still having a colonial economy. For more than 70 years, because we started with a self-governance from 1951, when President Kwame Nkrumah was made the leader of government business from 1951, February 1951. And we are still calling our economy a colonial economy. Meaning, yes, it's an indictment on all of us. So we need to be serious as a people. That for my lifetime, I haven't enjoyed anything. I'm nearly 63. So always hardship, secondary school, everything, inflation. There was a time that you'll be given a pocket money. You go to school and by the end of the term, your money wouldn't buy what you expected. So the suffering is so much. We've endured the suffering for so long.
Yeah.
But because we leave everything to government, and because of the fact that because of our cultural values, we always have the thinking in group thinking, that before you can criticize someone, you have to think whether the person is a relative or it's in your in group.
Mm.
So if you are my friend or you are my brother, if you do something, I cannot criticize you. It has to be a stranger or somebody I don't relate to.
Mm.
And with that cultural value, we are not helping ourselves. Most countries have moved away from that. It's your brother, but when he does something you have bad, you have to tell him.
Yeah.
And if your party member, when does something bad, has to be told as well.
Right.
So, in summary, I'll say that it's not only government. As a people, we have to be more patriotic and think about each other and our country as well. Unless we do that, we always have this suffering from high inflation.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you too, Doc. Really grateful that you made time to join me this morning. And of course, that's how we wrap up today on the Business Breakfast on Z 101.9 FM. It's been a very great conversation. We asked a big question: that can Ghana return to single-digit inflation by the end of the year? And we've heard that we've had a cautious optimism. The warnings and the opportunities lie ahead. And what is clear is that the progress we've seen is real, but it's still fragile. And whether it translates into lasting relief for households and businesses depends on a lot of discipline, some smart choices, and all of us staying alert. And to you who listen to us this morning, of course, inflation is more than a number. It's about how far your CD carries you, how confidently you plan your investment, and how boldly you dream from the future. And thank you to my guest, Dr. Valentine Mensah. He's an accountant. And thank you to you also for staying with us right from security until this point. The conversation continues beyond today, in your boardrooms, in your marketplace, and in your households. Let's continue to have the conversation. Well, I am Nitrebi Hammond, and this has been Business Breakfast on Z 101.9 FM. We're back again tomorrow for more interesting conversations. When you think Ghana, please do think Z. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
It's your lifestyle lure shirt.